Namaskar and welcome to Study IQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. The agenda for today's discussion is connected with Indian polity. Under the domain of polity, we are going to discuss about parliamentary privileges or parliamentary immunities available with the legislators. Why are we discussing this? Because recently a very big development has taken place. The Supreme Court has suggested that they are going to revisit a landmark verdict which is connected with immunity to the lawmakers. Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, has highlighted that a new constitutional bench, a larger constitutional bench, would be constituted to look into the verdict of the infamous P.V. Narasimha Rao versus CBI case 1998 verdict. In this discussion, we'll understand the issue in totality. Now, to understand this verdict, first we need to understand what is the meaning of parliamentary privilege or immunity. First, we'll understand that. Then we'll talk about different case references and we'll talk about the verdict of P.V. Narasimha Rao judgment and why the Supreme Court is going to revisit that. Now, to understand this completely, stay with me till the very end. All right, let's begin our interaction. Let's begin our interaction with understanding of parliamentary privileges. Now, first thing, what is the meaning of parliamentary privilege? The term privilege itself means some sort of a special right or an immunity which is available to the legislators. Now, parliamentary privileges are special rights, special immunities which are enjoyed by the legislatures and legislatures collectively, and the members of these legislatures, that is the lawmakers individually, they enjoy certain immunities from civil and criminal liabilities for the job that they do in the legislature. That means for their legislative duties, they will enjoy certain special rights. Now, under Indian Constitution, we do understand there is Article 14. Now, Article 14 talks about your right to equality. It has two aspects. One is all are equal in front of the law, but the second aspect talks about equal protection of law. And we also understand that there are certain exceptions to Article 14. For instance, there is president, there is governor, there are ambassadors of United Nations, other diplomats. They have some special immunities. Along with that list, there are some special rights and immunities available even to the parliamentarians, both at the MP level as well as MLA level. They have their respective rights and immunities, which are, I would say, exceptions to Article 14. Now, these are governed under two articles, under Article 105 for the Parliament and under Article 194 for the state legislatures. Again, please try to understand that these rights and immunities, they are not codified. That means they are not defined clearly. These are privileges which are mentioned in the Constitution, but they are not delimited or defined appropriately. Now, what kind of rights and immunities are available with the legislators, the lawmakers? There are two kinds of privileges that they have. First is individual privileges and the second is collective privileges. Now, under the individual privileges, every lawmaker, every legislator, be it in Parliament or State Legislative Assembly, under Article 105 and Article 194 respectively, they enjoy freedom of speech and expression. Of course, we also enjoy freedom of speech and expression, but they have something extra. According to the Constitution of India, the members of Parliament and State Legislative Assemblies, state legislatures, they enjoy freedom of speech and expression for anything that they do as their legislative duty. Again, please remember, this does not give them absolute right to freedom of speech and expression. Of course, they need to conform to the rules of the House, but their freedom of speech and expression for their legislative duties is a little extra. Apart from this, they also enjoy certain privileges of freedom from arrest and freedom of attendance as a witness or some sort of jury duty. Every legislator, they would be free from arrest, especially in civil cases, 40 days before and 40 days after a session. Apart from that, no member can be arrested within the precincts of the Parliament without the permission of the Speaker or the Chairman. Please remember, these immunities are only available for civil cases. For criminal cases, there is no special kind of protection which is available, which has been clearly enunciated by the Apex Court as well. In the K. Anandan Nambiar case in 1951, it has been clearly suggested MP cannot claim special status than any ordinary citizen. Same was reiterated in state of Kerala versus K. Ajit and others, that privileges available to the legislators, they cannot bypass the criminal laws. Under criminal cases, they will be equal. They will not have immunity or privileges. All right. This is individual privilege. Apart from that, the house will have privileges collectively. That means they will have right to publish the debates and proceedings. They will have right to allow or to forbid the publication of proceedings of the house. They can exclude strangers from the attendance. They can have secret sitting of the house. There is a right to punish the members as well as outsiders. Please remember, the house has power to punish the members as well as outsiders for breach of privilege, and for that there is committee on privileges which deals with these matters. Apart from that, they also have right to regulate the internal affairs of the house, meaning the lawmakers have special immunity, special privileges defined under the constitution itself. Now question comes up, sir, do they have immunity or do they have privileges for any sort of thing that they do in the parliament? For instance, I am a legislator. Let's take an example. I am a legislator. Now, can I accept bribe inside the house? Can I accept bribe inside the house for voting in certain way? Now, is this covered under the privileges or the immunities that are available with me? Again, this is happening within the precincts of the house. Now, I am telling that I have individual right, house has collective right to regulate its affairs. Individual right is available to the lawmakers, and the lawmaker says that, okay, I am accepting some sort of bribe and I'm voting, and that voting is my legislative duty. Am I immune from any sort of criminal liability here? Now, if you ask this question, does privilege protect a legislator from accepting bribe and voting in a certain way? Now, the answer to this question, surprisingly, would be yes as of now. And that is nothing but the verdict of the PV Narasimha Rao case. Now, there are extraordinary powers available with the House, especially with respect to privileges and immunities. And in one of the famous cases, reference Keshav Singh case, the apex court itself has told that the House itself would be the sole and the exclusive judge for any matters which come under the privileges or immunities of legislators and the House. If there is something which is not defined, then in such a case, the court can come up and decide on such matter. And one such matter came up in the PV Narasimha Rao case. Now, what happened in 1993 was there was a no confidence motion brought against the minority government headed by the then Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao. And everybody remembers it's like a dark spot in the India's parliamentary history. What happened was some of the legislators belonging to JMM, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, what they did was they accepted bribe then and there in the parliament itself to vote against the no confidence motion and save or safeguard the PV Narasimha Rao government. That happened in 1993. In fact, even now you can see those visuals of notes being circulated in the parliamentary house. That's why I told you it is some kind of a blot on India's parliamentary proceedings. Now, what happened after that? CBI filed a charge sheet against 10 members of parliament for accepting bribes and voting against the no confidence motion and saving the PV Narasimha Rao government. The CBI filed the charge sheet against Prevention of Corruption Act. And when this matter came up in the court, the Supreme Court, through a constitutional bench where there were 5 judges, by a majority of 3-2, the verdict was given such that if a question arose under Article 105 of 2, that any member in the parliament, do they have any immunity to protect themselves in criminal proceeding against them? The court said yes. It said that prosecution under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 to MPs who took bribes and who voted to save the Congress government in the parliament, they would be immune. No action should be taken against them. Sounds quite illogical, isn't it? And that is why the Supreme Court has decided to revisit this judgment, because see, this happened in parliament and there are many a times such incidences have happened in the state legislative assemblies as well. Now, in recent case, one of a similar matter came up again against Jharkhand Mukti Morcha MLA Sita Soren. Now, she was accused of taking bribe and voting for an independent candidate in the Rajya Sabha elections in 2012. And again, criminal proceedings were started against her. So she reached to the Jharkhand High Court. Now, the Jharkhand High Court, it declined to take any action. It declined. Now, she suggested that she suggested that she is completely immune from any sort of charge sheet or criminal proceeding for any actions taken inside the state legislative assembly. Now, for any sort of criminal action inside the state legislative assembly. And the High Court did not agree with this. Basically, the Jharkhand High Court, it took action, or it took a stance against the PV Narasimha Rao verdict itself. So after the Jharkhand High Court quashed it, Sita Soren, she approached the Supreme Court. Now, in the Supreme Court, of course, the learned counsels would argue on the basis of the precedent of the PV Narasimha Rao case only. Now, in the PV Narasimha Rao case 1998, Supreme Court has clearly held that the members would be immune for their action even if they take bribe and vote, because that is a legislative duty, right? And now the Supreme Court held that we are just a two-judge bench, and since the matter has already been decided by a bigger bench, so a bigger constitutional bench has to look into this particular matter. And in 2019, a three-judge bench, it noted that the matter is already decided by the PV Narasimha Rao judgment. And to overturn this particular verdict, we need a bigger bench. And now, the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, had taken up this matter, and he has suggested that a seven-judge bench would now be constituted to look into the matters, or look into the verdict of PV Narasimha Rao case. That means now this constitutional bench is going to look into the validity of Article 105 Clause 2 and 194 Clause 2, where the members of legislatures, will they be immune for any action, be it, say, even taking bribe and voting in a certain way? Will they be immune from even such actions inside the parliament, inside the temple of democracy? That is the matter which is on hand of the Supreme Court. So we'll keep an eye on this particular word. Again, common sense does tell you that there is a fundamental flaw in the judgment of PV Narasimha Rao verdict of 1998. Probably that might be reversed, or some new guidelines or codification of privileges might happen, because this has been a recommendation. The case for codification of these privileges has been suggested by many constitutional experts. For instance, the chairman for Constitutional and Parliamentary Studies, Dr. L.M. Singhvi, he and the committee, they favored codification of privileges. The Press Council of India, Press Commission of India, they have also called for codification and delimitation of these immunities and privileges available to the lawmakers. Similar kind of recommendation has come from National Commission for Review of Working of Constitution in 2002, the commission headed by Justice Venkatachalaya. They have also suggested that parliamentary privileges should be defined and delimited, but they have not happened till now. Now, it is because of this confusion, it is because of the wide nature of the privileges and immunities available, which are not codified, which are not defined. They are sometimes misused by the lawmakers. So let's wait and watch how this particular constitutional bench will look into the privileges and immunities available, and probably we might look at some sort of codification, because many countries, they do have privileges. For instance, if you ask me a question, so what is the need of these privileges or immunities to the lawmakers? They do need those immunities, privileges, because we want them to speak freely, conduct freely towards the legislative duties, but those should be defined and delimited, and many countries have done it. For instance, in the Australian political system, they have defined and delimited the laws of regarding privileges and immunities through a law. The Parliamentary Privileges Act of Australia, Parliamentary Privileges Act of New Zealand, many countries have defined and delimited these privileges, and probably India might follow the suit, not directly through the legislature, maybe through the constitutional bench. Let's wait and watch for this judgment. We'll keep an eye on this. If there is any update on this, we will discuss that again on Study IQ. But I hope that from exam perspective, it is now clear to you what is the meaning of parliamentary privilege or parliamentary immunity. They are not defined, delimited as of now. Wide powers are given to the speaker, chairman of the legislatures, which are often misused, not by the parliament per se, but by many state legislative assemblies. They are misused, and there are many times cases where journalists have been even jailed and fined heavy amount for criticism of the working of legislature. So such things have happened. So let's wait and watch how the judiciary will proceed with this particular matter. All right, that is it in this particular discussion. Thank you for watching this. Jai Hind.